Everyone thought a 2-year coma permanently destroyed his future, but he was actually trapped inside a brutal, alternate dimension, secretly grinding his power to impossible levels. Now he is finally awake, and the bullies laughing at him are completely doomed. Things kick off with a literal bang. An automated voice echoes over sirens, announcing that Lang City, in the 7th ecological zone, is under attack, and ordering an orderly evacuation. It is pure chaos. Meteors crash down from the sky. Meanwhile, a guy is casually spitting up blood, revealing a strange heart that has an actual crystal glowing inside it. Back in my reality at Langley City No. 1 High School, my teacher is giving us the ultimate pep talk. He announces that entering the Huangji class is our only hope of becoming martial warriors. The placement exam is a brutal simulation of the college entrance exams. The total score is 750, split between a cultural exam worth 225 points and the martial arts assessment, carrying a massive 525 points. Only the top 10 students get the golden ticket into the elite class. He signals the start of the cultural exam, and we are ordered to file in. I walk through the halls, fully aware this is my last shot at becoming a warrior, thanks to randomly falling unconscious. During my first year of high school, my panicked parents slapped me with a 2-year medical leave. It is now or never. Naturally, I immediately bump into a trio of walking cliches. The head bully zeroes in on me, mocking my return and loudly doubting my chances of getting into the Huangji class. After a 2-year nap, he acts like he owns the place and tries to jab his finger at my chest. I am completely unfazed. I catch his wrist, flash a polite smile, and suggest he worrying about his own passing grade. I brush past him, leaving the 3 of them standing there. Meanwhile, one of his lackeys asks how the kid who got bullied freshman year suddenly grew a spine, suggesting they jump me after the test. The main bully hesitates, realizing my grip was suspiciously strong. Meanwhile, he is a pragmatist with a PhD in betrayal. He decides that jumping me now might get them disqualified. Instead, he smiles like a complete psycho, deciding to simply cripple me. During the martial arts assessment, where accidents are perfectly legal, I take my seat and stare at the computer screen. The test asks for a brief history of the high martial calendar. I easily punch in the answers. In the year 2842 of the Old Era, an otherworldly civilization invaded, and humanity responded by throwing nuclear weapons at them. 2 years later, we suffered total defeat. Over 5 billion people died, but the radiation mutated the survivors, breaking human limiters and triggering evolution. On August 27, 2860, all adults hit life strength level 2, marking the birth of the high martial calendar. I breeze through the rest of the questions and hit submit. I already know it is a perfect score. I did not spend those 2 years just catching up on my beauty sleep. I was actually being pulled into a strange, alternate space. Surviving in that space awakened my spiritual power and gifted me a photographic memory. So despite missing 2 years of school, I am feeling pretty good about the academic portion. But since the cultural exam is only a fraction of the total score, I need to head home and seriously prep for the martial arts assessment. I walk through the front door, and my dad immediately announces dinner is ready. Behind him, my sister calls me clumsy and warns me not to lose my admission ticket, which I realize has casually fluttered to the floor. I sit down at the table and immediately spot a bottle of cheap blood pills. My dad casually mentions he bought them to help boost my score for the exam. I hit a state of pure guilt. I know I can pass without them. I try to object, but my dad pats my shoulder. He tells me not to overthink it. Even though he is not a warrior himself, he insists the family can support me and my sister, assuring me there is always a way to make money. I nod, keeping my worries to myself. Later that night in my room, reality hits hard. One bottle of those pills costs 20,000. Buying them definitely wiped out our family savings. I realize my poverty logic does not fly in this tax bracket. If I do not become a warrior, I cannot guarantee my family's safety. In this brutal society, tomorrow's success entirely depends on tonight. I sit down to meditate. A familiar blue aura gathers in my stomach, and just like that I am transported. I arrive in a frozen landscape filled with ice, holding my sword while a monster lunges right at me. Here is the deal: ever since my medical leave started, falling asleep pulls me into this crystal space. Monsters spawn endlessly, with one goal: destroy the glowing crystal. If they smash it, I spend the entire next day in the real world, completely unconscious. But if I die fighting to protect it, I wake up immediately fully energized for the day. At first I was terrified of fighting, which explains the 2-year coma streak. Once I figured out that dying in here equals waking up refreshed, things got a lot easier. Plus, successfully defending against a monster wave permanently boosts my spiritual power, which is exactly how my memory and comprehension skyrocketed. The cold system voice chimes in, warning me in a loop that the next wave of monsters is arriving in 30 seconds. The only catch is that the stat boost only applies the first time I clear a specific wave. I effortlessly slice through the approaching monsters and pull up my status panel. My life strength is sitting at 5.1 spiritual power, at 5 lifting strength at 1000 jong, and my speed is 20 meters per second. I check my flowing light sword technique, which is at the first order with 89% mastery. Looking at the numbers, I realized my current stats still are not high enough to guarantee a spot in the Huangji class. Right on cue, the system announces the 5th wave is preparing to spawn. A massive dragon materializes, immediately spewing fire. Having died to this thing plenty of times before, I already know its entire rhythm by heart. Fire breath, claw slash. Tail whip. I activate the breeze beneath the forest, move from my sword technique and launch an attack, successfully pushing the giant beast back. Unsurprisingly, it instantly goes berserk. I managed to secure a spot right on top of the dragon. I mentally kick myself for being careless, but I am just relieved I did not get seriously injured, yet sweating profusely. I realize the psycho is dead serious about turning me into a past tense. I force myself to stay calm, perfectly dodging its next thrash, absolutely determined to win this time. The dragon lunges desperately, trying to bite back. Dodging its massive jaws is surprisingly easy. Being fun-sized in comparison definitely has its perks, mostly in the agility department. Taking full advantage of that speed, a swift throw sends my sword straight into the beast. Giant eye. A few more brutal slashes follow, ending with the blade driven right into its skull. A system notification immediately pops up with, "Congratulations! Defending against 5 waves of monster attacks. Just leveled up my spiritual power by 1. The real prize, however, is a new reward, the Void Immortal Visualization Method. Getting a stat boost is standard, but school lectures always highlighted visualization methods as incredibly rare techniques for actively cultivating spiritual power. Free loot is always welcome." Barely a second passes before the system cheerfully announces the next wave. A massive, terrifying horde of monsters instantly swarms the field. Surviving is simply not an option. Getting completely wiped out sends me waking up in a flash. Reflecting on the massacre, passing that stage anytime soon seems impossible, given their higher levels, and the sheer fact that there were 30 of them. Shrugging off the defeat, testing out the new visualization method takes priority. Activating the technique pulls my consciousness into a surreal space. Looming overhead is a colossal, grinning figure covered in eyes. Simply staring at this giant triggers an intense series of mental trials. Back in the real world, my physical body is drenched in sweat and enveloped in a pulsing blue energy. The bedroom door swings open, and my sister steps in to announce mealtime. Snapping out of the trance, tossing off my soaked shirt, reveals a suddenly very muscular physique. My sister blinks immediately, noting the physical glow up. Giving her an affectionate pat on the head only makes her blush as she swats my hand away, complaining about her hair, while quietly wondering if her brother was always this good looking. Catching my own reflection confirms her suspicions. The Void Immortal Visualization Method is clearly working miracles. Heading out the door the next morning, my dad calls out wishing me a safe trip to the exam. Arriving at the Liang City No. 1 high school sports arena, warming up feels completely different. Every single aspect of my body feels vastly improved. Naturally, the peaceful moment is ruined when the local bully trio swaggers over from Ruwei. Their fearless leader immediately starts running his mouth. He mocks my 2-year absence and questions why a bottom-ranked student would even bother showing up for the Huangji class assessment, completely unfazed. Pointing out that showing up is still better than failing the cultural exam, wipes the smirk right off his face. One of his lackeys barks in anger, but a polite smile and a reminder that bad hearing disqualifies him from the test shuts that down fast. Fu Ruwei warns me not to push my luck, smiling right back. Telling him not to take things so personally is effortless. Luckily, a friend steps in to de-escalate the tension. He reminds everyone that fighting outside the designated exam area will just get us all penalized by the teachers. The bullies storm off, but not before Feng Ruwei promises revenge. My friend immediately calls my bluff, calling me an idiot for provoking them. Worrying just is not my style, but he quickly drops a reality bomb. The reason Feng Ruwei is so arrogantly confident is that his second uncle recently became the Dean of Academic Affairs, and rumors say he already leaked the martial arts assessment questions to his nephew. Looks like watching out for a rigged exam is now firmly on the to-do list. The loudspeaker crackles to life, explaining the rules. The martial arts assessment involves a strength test, followed by combat duels. Students are ordered to enter the exam rooms in groups of 10 for the initial strength evaluation. Standing in the queue, my friend is visibly sweating, while remaining carefree is simply my default setting. Up ahead sits a massive mascot, serving as our punching bag. The rules are brutal. We must strike the sandbag with full force, and the lowest score in each group gets instantly eliminated. My friend heavily complains about the harsh mechanics. Conserving strength for the upcoming combat duels seems like the smartest strategy, so going all out right now is entirely unnecessary. Across the room, Bone Royd puffs out his chest and throws a heavy strike. His lackeys practically foam at the mouth, cheering loudly, estimating his punch at an impressive 14 jong, and declaring him the obvious winner. Stepping up to my own mascot, a simple conserved punch connects. The giant machine violently launches completely into the air. Complete silence falls, followed by sheer panic from the peanut gallery. A reading of 15 under Gene flashes, leaving everyone screaming about how kid with a basic 5.1 life strength level could hit that hard. Standing nearby, my friend stares in absolute shock, clearly wondering when his buddy turned into an absolute monster. Meanwhile, the instructor is having a minor existential crisis. Watching from the sidelines, he calculates that a life strength of 5.1 normally corresponds to a face and gene of punch force. The fact that absolutely no one in the elite Hwanji class can pull that off leaves him utterly baffled, wondering if my martial skills are the secret ingredient. He asks an assistant for my file. Staring at the paper, he realizes a regular student who took 2 years off somehow achieved a 55% mastery in the first order of martial skills. He mentally notes to keep a very close eye on my true strength. This afternoon, the scene shifts directly to the battle arena. The instructor calls up the next pair for the combat duels, and the matchmaking is pure poetry. It is me against Feng Rui, the head bully. The crowd immediately erupts into shocked gossip. Whispers fly around about my incredible strength score, while the skeptics loudly declare that Feng Rui is guaranteed to win, because combat duels rely on actual martial skill, not just raw power standing face to face in the ring. The drama king aggressively points a finger at my chest. He warns me not to mistake my previous luck for actual skill, flashing a smirk. I simply hope he maintains that exact level of arrogance. He launches himself forward, completely abandoning the concept of stopping violence through martial arts. Blocking his first 2 strikes is a breeze, followed immediately by planting a fist right into his face. A nosebleed blooms as he stumbles backward, furiously hyping himself up as the true heir to the elite class. Driven by pure rage, he unleashes a flurry of special techniques, deflecting and dodging his attacks. The realization hits that fighting real humans requires a slightly different rhythm than dodging crystal space monsters. He keeps blindly swinging, which makes spotting his totally unstable stance embarrassingly easy. Activating the breeze beneath the forest technique, a swift counterattack completely wrecks his balance. In a desperate move, he actually pulls out a small dagger. We brace for a final clash, but instead of an epic showdown, my hand just connects with his face, sending my opponent into the middle of next week with a single slap. Instantly throws him entirely out of the ring. The spectators are completely stunned. My friend is screaming from the sidelines about his dark horse buddy, while others loudly accuse me of taking performance-enhancing drugs. Down on the floor, the local tyrant is completely passed out. The instructor immediately calls the medical team to scrape Feng Rui off the floor and orders the next pair to get ready. Then he calls my name and tells me to wait. Bowing politely, I offer a textbook apology, claiming I simply got caught up in the moment and lost control of my strength. My fault instead of a scolding. The teacher just pats my shoulder. He casually brushes off the severe beating as a normal combat injury, advises me to be more careful, and reminds me to stretch when I get home. Gratefully thanking him, leaving the arena feels like a massive victory. Watching me leave, the teacher silently analyzes the total destruction. Seeing a student get beaten to a pulp while the winner walks away without a single scratch confirms my overwhelming advantage in martial skills. Without missing a beat, he orders his assistant to get the principal on the phone. Strolling down a quiet corridor, checking the time, reveals it is still way too early to head home. To an empty house, sitting right there is a virtual combat pod. Since affording human sparring partners is completely out of my tax bracket, the school thankfully provides these machines to match students with opponents of similar skill levels. Sliding into the pod, reality checks in. Spending every night exclusively fighting crystal space monsters my virtual combat rank is currently stuck at bronze. Plugging into the system, a troubling thought surfaces. Humiliating the dean's nephew in front of the entire school practically guarantees he will send people to sabotage my entry into the Hwanji class. However, the virtual pod logs all combat records onto the globally recognized Blue Star Youth Rankings, also known as the Genius Rankings. Not even the current elite class students have managed to make that list. Earning a spot on those rankings will definitely secure my admission, based purely on undeniable ability. Locking into the mental realm feels nostalgic, considering this is the first visit since the crystal space hijacked my sleep schedule. Deciding to warm up with a quick match. Looking around the empty arena is confusing. Where is my opponent? Right on cue. A girl attempts a massive sneak attack from behind. Too slow to react, she confidently declares. The match starts with me barely blocking a surprise attack from a girl. She smugly informs me that my reactions are decent, but this is not a school exam where opponents politely greet each other. Before throwing hands, I steady my stance firmly, telling her there will be no more ambushes. Launching forward with the Azure Dragon thrust. My speed leaves her completely stunned. She immediately notices I am using a thrusting move exactly like a standard sword technique. Instead of folding, she kicks me, lecturing me that flowing form should never be confined to a single, rigid shape. She tells me to think about the true essence of the martial skill itself. As she attacks again, my brain scrambles, trying to figure out how she knows my sword technique. Smiling, she launches into the air, warning me not to get distracted. Her strength is terrifying, and I cannot read her basic martial style at all. Before I can process my next move, she perfectly ambushes me from behind. My inner monologue screams about what a sneaky brat she is. Just as the defeat screen flashes, I lose 10 points to a user named Little Girl, selling nuclear bombs. Staring at the screen, a massive realization hits. She could have easily crushed me with raw strength, yet she still chose to rely on an ambush. Her words about the essence of martial skills echo in my head. The flowing light sword technique has 4 forms, and the Azure Dragon Thrust is the only one I haven't mastered. It is essentially an assassin's move. Assassins excel at ambushing, whereas my fighting style has been painfully straightforward. Deciding to test this new theory, I immediately queue up for actual combat. Naturally, the matchmaking system decides to punish my hubris. I load in, to find myself facing a literal mountain of a man, wielding a massive steel ball. I internally question what kind of absolute garbage algorithm paired me against someone with such a ridiculous weapon advantage. Still, my martial skill is definitely higher. Leaping into the attack, he swings his giant steel ball, and boldly lectures me that my slightly better skill will not save me, adding that I have no idea how to actually use a sword. I smile, simply asking if that is really true. Activating Breeze beneath the forest, a swift move pushes the heavy ball right back at him. Using his own momentum against him, I launch myself into the air and gracefully land, with my blade resting directly against his neck. He freezes in absolute panic, sputtering about how I was just in front of him a microsecond ago. A quick execution of the Azure Dragon Thrust finished the job perfectly. Right on cue, system notifications start flooding the screen. My flowing light sword technique mastery just bumped from 89 to 90%. Realizing that combat deepens understanding, queuing up for another battle is the only logical choice. Match after match, the victories pile up, and the mastery percentage just keeps climbing. After an exhausting marathon of fights, my stomach is violently protesting. Glancing at my watch, a congratulatory message pops up, announcing my official entry into the top 10,000 of the Blue Star Youth rankings. Asking the system to display the full breakdown reveals some absolutely staggering numbers. Currently sitting at rank 6,219 globally, rank 654 in the ecological zone, rank 55 in the domain, and rank 7 in the Purple Cloud District. But the real kicker, no one on the Lank City Youth rankings. Staring at the glowing screen, my soul practically does a victory lap. Mastering the Azure Dragon Thrust actually pushed me to the absolute top of the entire city. Securing a spot in the elite Wangji class is now officially guaranteed. The next morning at Lang City No. 1 High School, the peace is abruptly shattered. Someone loudly barks my name, reprimanding me for being ill-mannered and failing to properly greet a teacher. Turning around reveals Fong Li, the Dean of Academic Affairs, who also conveniently happens to be Fong Haryu's second uncle. Beside him is a short assistant, who aggressively points a finger at my chest. The dean pompously declares he is conducting a uniform appearance inspection. He glares and demands to know what I am wearing. Glancing down at my perfectly standard, school-issued uniform makes the situation incredibly confusing. The surrounding students burst into nervous laughter, prompting the short assistant to demand silence. Whispers immediately ripple through the courtyard. Gossip travels fast, apparently. Phone Rui is still stuck in the hospital, and his uncle is clearly out for blood. Someone even loudly theorizes that winning yesterday's duel required taking banned substances. Refusing to drop the ridiculous charade, the dean actually swings his pointing stick right at my face. Dodging the strike is completely effortless. He frustratingly declares my outfit fails the inspection, politely pointing out that the uniform perfectly complies with all school rules, only makes his face turn a new shade of purple. Screaming about my audacity to talk back, he swings the stick a second time, catching the weapon midair, stops him dead in his tracks. Furious at the blatant defiance, he vows to report this disobedience to the principal and have me permanently expelled. Who is looking for me? A voice echoes through the courtyard. The high school principal steps onto the scene, accompanied by Mayor Wang and Chuan himself. The dean immediately lights up, eagerly pointing fingers and snitching on my supposed terrible behavior. The principal simply nods, steps right past the complaining dean, and greets me warmly. He explains they came specifically to find me, and introduces the mayor, offering a polite hello, asking what this whole grand entrance is about. Seems like the safest bet. The mayor bursts into loud, booming laughter. He claps his hands, announcing that since a local kid just claimed the #1 spot on the Lang City Youth rankings and broke into the top 1% of the global Blue Star rankings, he simply had to come see this prodigy for himself. Complete pin drop silence washes over the courtyard. The surrounding students and the revenge-obsessed dean stand entirely frozen, their jaws practically hitting the floor, absolutely shell-shocked by the words top 1%. Hearing the mayor's announcement, the surrounding students completely lose their minds. Whispers of "holy crap," and he didn't need drugs ripple through the crowd, quickly shifting to loud praises of my undeniable talent and guaranteed spot in the elite Huangji class. The principal warmly invites us to the conference room for a private chat, casually leaving the completely stunned dean kneeling on the floor on the way. The principal mentions that Teacher Ling practically demanded my transfer to the elite section yesterday, making my relocation there completely mandatory. Right after this meeting, walking into the conference room reveals two unfamiliar faces already seated. A quick introduction establishes them as the local heavyweights. Sitting across the table is Lubo, a senior from City Noverto High School, currently sitting at rank 2 on the city youth leaderboards. Next to him is Emily, rocking a signature bandana and holding the title of the Nover 1 student in our school's Wangji class. None of us have officially crossed paths before. Getting straight to the point, the mayor explains that the 100 cities under our Purple Cloud district are organizing a massive tournament for high school seniors. Each city is sending its top 3 students based on the martial skill rankings recorded just last night, led by a high-level warrior. The chosen reps will travel to High City Nover 1 High School for a brutal 3-day championship. The prize pool is absolutely ridiculous. The top 10 finalists receive crucial college entrance, bonus points, and a minimum of 100,000 yuan in pure cash. The mayor casually asks if we want in, and Molly immediately questions why the tournament uses actual combat instead of the perfectly safe virtual pods. Taking a calm sip of his tea, the mayor clarifies that district leadership views real physical combat as a much better metric of true skill. To keep things fair and prevent accidental murder, participants will wear specially made protective suits that normalize everyone's physical life strength to the exact same level. This setup is an absolute dream scenario. Taking away raw physical advantages makes it a pure test of martial skill, a category where my rank easily places me in the district's top 20. Factoring in my daily progression speed inside the crystal space, cracking the top 3 feels entirely doable. Even failing to make the top 10 would provide a perfect chance to gauge the local competition. Unsurprisingly, tossing my hat into the ring is an easy yes. Lubo and MLA quickly follow suit. The mayor beams with pride, praising the youth, and dismisses us back to class, promising to send out the departure schedule soon. Heading down the hallway, the stakes have never felt higher. Securing a top 3 spot in this tournament means a massive cash payout. If this works out, my parents will not have to work themselves to death ever again. Failure simply is not an option. Pushing open the doors to the Huangji class, the setup is entirely different from a regular room. There are no labeled name tags on the desks, assuming it is free seating. Picking a random desk seems harmless enough. Barely a second passes before a massive, bare-looking student slams a heavy hand onto my shoulder. He violently barks at me to get lost, demanding to know how, and nobody dares to sit in his spot, standing up to face him unflinchingly. The sheer absurdity of the situation hits hard. What era is this? Are we seriously still doing textbook high school bullying? He raises a fist to attack, but a familiar voice suddenly cuts through the tension. The bandana guy from the meeting calmly interrupts to point out that the new kid clearly does not know the local rules yet. Glancing over, the realization that ML approached completely silently sets off massive mental alarm bells. His life strength must easily exceed mine by at least 2 full levels. The bear guy snorts, warning me that getting saved by Amole makes this my incredibly lucky day. Amole sighs and breaks down. The brutal hierarchy of the elite class, strength and weakness, are entirely dictated by assigned seat numbers. Every month kicks off with an actual combat tournament to determine the rankings. The humiliation factor is incredibly steep. The bottom 10 students literally have to stand at the back of the class for the entire month. Glancing back confirms a row of miserable-looking kids standing against the wall. The competitive pressure in this room is absolute madness since it is the start of the month. MLA explains that the seats are temporarily locked, meaning new arrivals have to fight for a spot through a challenge format. A quick question about whether the seat numbers offer anything beyond avoiding leg cramps confirms my deepest suspicions. MLA, currently occupying the glorious number 1 seat, explains that a higher rank equals a much better allocation of cultivation resources for the entire month. Hearing the word resources immediately flips a switch in my brain. Aiming for the absolute highest seat possible is now the only priority. Right on cue, the instructor arrives and orders everyone straight to the combat room next door. Standing in the arena, the teacher outlines the format as the challenger. The new guy gets up to 3 matches, with a seat assigned based entirely on performance. Without missing a single beat, raising my hand and officially challenging for seat number 10 throws the entire room into total chaos. The surrounding students are completely stunned. Whispers erupt about how the innocent-looking new kid is actually a total maniac for targeting the top 10 right out of the gate. From the sidelines, The instructor's face screams pure skepticism. He clearly assumes that, despite my supposedly high martial skills, my currently pathetic life strength stats make challenging the top 10 a completely foolish endeavor. He silently resolves to let this arrogant kid taste some harsh reality as a character-building exercise. The math in my head is perfectly sound, though the resource allocation for 10th place is a massive 50% higher than 11th place. That jump in loot makes the risk entirely worth it. A booming laugh echoes across the room. The bear-looking guy from earlier steps forward, loudly mocking the sheer arrogance of the new kid, and warning me not to cry when he beats me senseless. Staring blankly at him, asking if he actually holds the 10th seat, wipes the smile right off his face. He grins viciously and confirms my extremely bad luck. The instructor orders Peng Hu to gear up and step into the ring. Sizing up the eager new student, the teacher heavily sighs, finally announcing the official start of the match. The bear-sized student bellows across the ring, asking if the new kid is ready to beg for mercy, flashing a confident smile, and suggesting we wait and see feels appropriate. He lunges forward with terrifying speed, swinging a ridiculously huge hammer, while screaming about my slow reaction time. The peanut gallery erupts into panicked whispers, assuming the massive life strength difference is an absolute death sentence. Even a tiny 0.1 gap usually decides a match, let alone a full level. Meanwhile, the instructor watches from the sidelines, completely baffled by my sudden jump to a 5-point to life strength overnight. The massive bully roars in premature victory, bringing his hammer down, sidestepping. The attack is totally effortless. His eyes practically bulge out of his skull in shock, slipping right under his guard. A perfectly timed Azure Dragon thrust connects directly with his stomach, launching him into the air, before he violently crushes down. Winding up for a follow-up strike, the instructor suddenly grabs my wrist. To halt the match, he stares in absolute disbelief, identifying the technique and declaring, "My martial skill just hit first-order perfection." Mentioning a lucky breakthrough last night seems to break the teacher's brain, since jumping 9% in a single evening is unheard of. Gripping my wrist, he formally announces the winner. The crowd completely loses their minds. Winning against a full-level difference with a single strike is basically a glitch in the Matrix. Even the no one seat silently acknowledges a late-blooming genius. The teacher offers a chance to keep challenging the ranks, but declining is an easy choice. The minor resource bump just isn't worth the energy. Suddenly Mlay saunters over, waving his phone to exchange WeChat contacts. This opens the floodgates, and soon half the class is swarming over. In a stunning display of lost dignity, the bear guy literally crawls over to cling to my leg, begging his new big bro to forget his trash talk. He definitely has a PhD in bending with the wind. Once the dust settles, the instructor quietly orders a visit to his office. Later we arrive at the principal's office. The teacher marches right in, asking if any special recruitment slots are left for Mount Everest or Mount Thai martial arts universities. The principal is utterly confused. The teacher demands a chance for me to try, but the principal sighs, explaining, "Those elite schools require first-order perfection, which I was supposedly too low for just yesterday." Having zero patience, the teacher points to a testing device in the corner. The principal warns, it maxes out at measuring advanced skills, but the teacher ignores him, ordering a full-power reproduction of my arena attack. Unleashing the Azure Dragon thrust onto the testing pad produces a spectacular result. The entire machine instantly shatters. The principal practically jumps out of his chair. The teacher smirks, admitting even he didn't expect that. Apologizing for turning expensive property into scrap metal feels incredibly awkward, ignoring the hardware. The teacher passionately declares, "My combat sense is extraordinary," claiming, "It looks like someone who has survived countless life and death battles." A cold sweat drops down my neck. His instincts are terrifyingly accurate. The principal is completely sold. He officially labels me an absolute genius, temporarily awarding the exact same resource allocation as the Nobel 1 seat. He promises to handle the paperwork, ordering a mandatory top 3 finish in the upcoming tournament to guarantee a spot. A quick breakdown of this special recruitment clears things up. The teacher explains, the regular college exam demands a near possible life strength of 6.5, but this route bypasses that, relying solely on martial skill perfection. Knowing this, asking if I can still apply elsewhere seems logical. The teacher raises an eyebrow, asking if there's a specific destination in mind. Naming Huangshan Martial Arts University hangs in the air. The principal is puzzled, pointing out that all top 8 schools offer identical resources. The real reason is simple. 6 years ago, Lang City was ambushed by massive monsters, costing tens of thousands of lives. Keeping my family safe is the only real priority. If the city ever faces that danger again, being close enough to rush back and protect them is non-negotiable. Hearing this, the teacher falls entirely silent. He stares intently, realizing this desperate resolve usually only belongs to people who have lost everything. Seeing that kind of heavy responsibility carried by someone with an intact family leaves a massive impression in the room. proposing the elite universities as backups, while aiming for Huangshan feels logical. But the principal instantly shoots that down. Special recruitment requires signing a strictly binding contract. The teacher practically begs me not to gamble with my future. He breaks down the math. Special recruitment grants a massive 100-point deduction. The regular exam requires an impossible 6.5 life strength and only offers a measly 30-point reduction. Flashing a polite smile, I promised to think it over just to escape the room. Standing outside, I realized the tournament is a month away. That leaves exactly 30 days to move into my new private martial chamber and chemically turbocharge my life strength. That means a trip to the Tech Martial Hall. Humanity's survival rests on 3 pillars. The Extreme Martial Hall fights aliens. The Tech Martial Hall handles human enhancement. Founded by Durag is the second strongest human alive. And the Warrior Alliance stops us from destroying ourselves inside. I asked the receptionist for 3 boxes of Thunderblood pills. She politely informs that an endurance test is mandatory. It makes sense, these pills turn into literal lightning inside your meridians. If you lose mental focus for 30 minutes, that lightning turns fatal. The test prevents buyers from accidentally exploding. In the lobby approaching the testing machine, I place my hand on the console and declare I am ready. The shock is barely a tickle. As I cheerfully walk out with my purchase, the receptionist furiously dials tech support. Utterly convinced the machine is broken, back in my private chamber, I check the instructions: 1 pill daily. Maximum 3 at once with 3 pills simultaneously, multiplying the pain 5-fold. My logic is flawless. The endurance test was a joke, so taking 3 at once is a brilliant time-saving strategy. The resulting pain is absolute, unadulterated agony. It feels like swallowing a very angry storm cloud. Sweating profusely, I mentally dare the pills to give me their worst. Right on cue, the system chimes in. My life strength just bumped from 5.2 to 5.3. At this brutal pace, refusing the binding special recruitment is completely viable. However, my bank account tells a different story. I can only afford 10 days of this torture, leaving me with exactly 55 days of living expenses. Securing a top to finish in the upcoming tournament isn't just a goal anymore. It is a desperate financial necessity. Suddenly, my body goes completely numb and I hit the floor. The lightning side effect temporarily paralyzes my muscles. Figuring that if my physical body is stuck, my mind needs a workout, I close my eyes and dive straight into the crystal space. Waking up the next morning, I reflect on spending the entire night getting beat up by the green fire giant. I still lost, but my spiritual power saw a massive spike. Realizing the school's allocated resources have finally arrived makes attending class sound incredible. In the classroom, a redhead instructor named Yeti takes the stage. She is a mental power instructor from the Warrior Alliance, with a life strength exceeding level 15. Today's lesson is a Huangqi exclusive technique, spiritual force and training. It requires at least level to spiritual power, and allows you to concentrate every ounce of physical strength into a single explosive point. Glancing around, everyone else looks totally bored. Clearly having hired private tutors for this years ago. Yeti warns that, before reaching spiritual power level 10, the channel's strength is pitiful. She strongly advises against wasting time on it before the exams. Then she announces a test. Summoning a glowing purple flute, she prepares to play the fatigue melody. To measure our mental resistance, she casually walks over and offers me a free pass to skip it. She clearly assumes I am still at level 1 and expects me to instantly faceplant. Refusing her offer surprises her. She internally sighs, chalking it up to foolish youth pride, and silently resolves to catch me when I inevitably collapse. Just as a favor to teacher Elaine, raising the flute, she orders everyone to focus, warning that her melody violently exhausts both body and mind. The class collectively grits their teeth as the first note hits. The moment you did plays the first note, a menacing purple aura floods the room. Inside my mental realm, a ghostly apparition materializes, launching hypnotic water-style attacks. Locking the phantom strikes takes total concentration. Out in the real world, Yeti stares intently while everyone else struggles. I apparently look as relaxed as someone enjoying a cup of tea. Surprised by my mental resilience, she aggressively dials the spiritual pressure up a notch. The classroom instantly turns into a disaster zone. People collapse left and right, groaning about weak legs and unbearable exhaustion. Ed practically vibrates with shock. Seeing me still standing, whispers spread among the survivors. Knowing my bank account is entirely empty, they realize I cannot afford spiritual enhancement items. The consensus quickly lands on me, possessing extremely rare dual talents in both martial skills and spiritual power. Even the bear-sized guy I humiliated yesterday bursts into laughter. His twisted logic dictates that my overwhelming strength proves he is not weak, making his total defeat perfectly fair. Meanwhile, Emily, the no. 1 seat, is physically trembling on the floor. He realizes my dual talent could easily secure a spot in the 3 great elite academies. Yuri notes that Emily collapsed at level 6, while I just tanked level 7. Pushing her luck, she cranks the test to level 8. In my mental realm, the ghost morphs into a colossal giant blocking. Its massive strike physically pushes me back, proving this melody violently drains both spirit and flesh. Simultaneously watching in awe, Yuri concludes that having spiritual power, exceeding life strength is a literal miracle, silently dubbing me the perfect weapon against the otherworldly Big Eye civilization. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, absolute chaos ensues. The principal shouts in disbelief about the dual talent. Report Yuri confirms her findings, and Teacher Ling boldly claims, I have the potential to become a level 20 skywalking warrior. The principal practically faints, earning the title of a flying skywalking warrior. Is a 1 in 10,000 miracle. He declares the standard 8th grade schools a complete waste of my potential, insisting I aim for the Black Dragon Martial Arts University. Their freshman selection happens right after the upcoming tournament, and Ling is ordered to recruit me immediately. Sitting in Teacher Ling's office later, he asks if I know anything about Black Dragon University, admitting I only know it is the top 3 elite school. Prompts a heavy lecture. He explains they only recruit geniuses capable of reaching the skywalking level, requiring a monstrous 9.9 life strength and intermediate stage martial skills. He highlights the brutal reality that most warriors miss their prime training window due to sheer poverty. He asks if I am willing to aim for the elite selection. Agreeing out loud is easy, but internally the stakes are terrifying. Leaving for that school feels like a massive gamble. It could literally mean saying goodbye to my family forever. Ling advises, using the 8th grade schools as a safety net, while pushing for Black Dragon, nodding along, focusing entirely on the tournament. That is just a month away. Seems like the only sane strategy. The next morning at the breakfast table, my sister stares intensely, silently wondering how her brother suddenly leveled up in the handsome and mysterious department. Dropping the news that I am moving into the school's training facilities for a month to prep for the tournament causes a minor panic. Mom immediately worries about my health and my history of spontaneous comas. My sister questions if dorms are even available this late. Reassuring them is easy. The Huanji class perks include a private, fully equipped martial chamber. My dad gives his ultimate stamp of approval, telling me to keep my drive and charge straight ahead. Finishing my meal, grabbing my bag, and heading for the door prompts a chorus of goodbyes. Mom tells me to take care. Dad praises my hard work, and my sister demands I bring home first place. Walking down the corridor with my oversized backpack feels like moving into a high-end bunker. I have officially relocated to my private martial chamber. Taking inventory, I count 90 blood-boosting meals, 30 pills, and 4 packs of perfect blood powder. That is at least 50,000 martial arts credits, casually sitting in my fridge. My poverty logic is definitely screaming. But from now on, outside of class, my life is just pure uninterrupted training. I step into the arena and order the room's AI, Little Bear, to crank the gravity up to 5 times normal. It instantly feels like 15 adult elephants are comfortably sitting on my shoulders. Time to fight the training robot. In this heavy environment, taking a hit head-on or misdirecting force will instantly tear muscles and snap bones. Evasion is the only survival option. The robot coldly calculates my evasion efficiency at 87%, criticizing my high energy consumption, and recommending I reduce unnecessary movement. It suddenly attacks from above and below simultaneously, totally cutting off my escape routes. Deciding to use the heavy gravity to my advantage, I launch a risky counterattack. The machine instantly yells about a last resort, leaps at me, and literally bear hugs me to the floor. Pinned to the ground by a clinging hunk of metal, I order Little Bear to kill the gravity mode, and beg the robot to let me go. It just stubbornly repeats its last resort protocol into my ear, finally peeling myself off the floor. My physical body is completely fried. To relax my muscles and boost my mental stats, I activate the Void Immortal visualization method. Transported back to that terrifying grinning giant, I treat him like a massive pinata, full of spiritual power experience. Exiting the trance, my spiritual power just bumped up by 0.3 levels, but my legs are entirely numb. Chugging a supplement pill, I realize my mind and body are both absolutely exhausted. The only logical next step is a strategic nap. Hitting the mattress immediately yanks me into the crystal space. The green fire giants are waiting. I failed to kill a single one last time, but now I finally spot their gimmick. Those weird green patches on their bodies are not curses or birthmarks, they are highly concentrated energy. Spots aside, from possessing ridiculously thick health bars, they have 0 special abilities. Target the green patches when the fight, launching myself forward. The physical difference is night and day. After suffering through 5 times gravity, moving in normal conditions makes me feel incredibly light and agile. I easily shatter the patches, and finally execute one of the giants. Grinding this exact loop of heavy gravity and crystal space combat is the ultimate cheat code. Step by step, hitting the top 3 in the tournament is definitely within reach. Fast forward and we finally arrive in High City. for the heavily anticipated 100 Cities tournament. Stepping into the designated hotel, alongside my teacher and teammates, I realized this is my first time in a place this ridiculously fancy. Naturally, the luxurious piece is immediately shocked. A guy from the Lu City team named Wu Zhang is aggressively screaming at the front desk. He is throwing a massive tantrum, claiming he arrived within the required time, and accusing the terrified receptionist of targeting him, demanding an explanation. He aggressively winds up his fist. Watching from the lobby, my soul does a double take, as I realize this absolute maniac is actually about to physically assault the receptionist standing in the lobby. A powerful wave of pure sword intent washes over me. Tracking the source, I realize it's coming directly from Wu Zhang, the maniac who is just screaming at the front desk. His martial skill level might not be below mine at all. Male, the bandana guy, stares in disbelief, asking how such a vulgar brute could possibly possess that kind of strength. Suddenly, a purple bear girl strides into the lobby, coolly ordering the staff to let Wu Zhang sign in and treat his teammates as forfeits. She's a member of the High City competition team. The moment people spot her, the lobby erupts. Whispers of Sea Princess bounce around the room, accompanied by loud declarations that she is somehow even prettier in person than in her photos. Amoe practically swoons, explaining that her name is Hai Jiao, the only daughter of the High City No. 1 high school principal with elite family power, a spotless reputation and top-tier talent. She is a true heaven's favorite. He helpfully points out that someone like me doesn't stand a chance, however. I am too busy staring at her face. My brain completely blue screens as I recognize her. She is exactly the same girl from my first match in the virtual combat pod, the sneaky one who tried to stab me in the back while calling me slow. I always assumed the system just auto-generated that avatar. Seeing that absolute menace wandering around in real life as a local celebrity is completely surreal. A massive grin spreads across my face. Emily catches my psycho smile and physically recoils, clearly creeped out. I'm just thrilled that I bumped into an online opponent in real life. If her martial skills were already at first order perfection back then, I cannot wait to see how strong she is now. Coming to this tournament was definitely the right choice. Later that evening, our team is gathered in a private room. Teacher Ling takes a sip of his hot drink and drops a massive bomb. The tournament organizers just completely changed the rules. Before the standard elimination round, we have to survive a mandatory badge battle. Ling explains the new brutal format. The tournament lasts 3 days. Tomorrow is the badge battle inside a forest arena. We have exactly 13 hours to locate and secure 2 specific badges, marked with the characters Gao and Wu. Once we have them, we must reach the finish line. Surviving the round entirely depends on how many team members make it across. I ask for the total count. Ling replies grimly, there are exactly 50 gold badges and 50 blue badges. That means an absolute maximum of 50 teams can pass. In other words, at least half the competitors will be eliminated. Tomorrow, the survivors immediately jump into a 1v1 elimination bracket on day 2, whittling 150 people down to a final 10. Teammates are immune to fighting each other, a rule that prompts visible sighs of relief from Lubo and Mola. The final day is the top 10 battle. Just surviving that far guarantees bonus college points and a fat stack of cash. Winning the entire thing depends on endurance. 3 days of continuous fighting, with minimal rest, means the ultimate victor might not be the strongest, but they will definitely be the most well-rounded. Ling's face suddenly turns completely serious. He enforces the absolute golden rule: no killing. Our true enemies are otherworldly civilizations, so turning a blade on our comrades is strictly forbidden. He reminds us, we will be wearing life strength equalizing suits. The teachers will be shadowing us from the trees for safety, but if Ling has to intervene, our team is instantly disqualified. The next morning, we stand before massive gates at High City No. 1 high school. The principal, Chi Chong, takes the stage. He points behind the gates to a lush forest, explaining it is a dimensional rift created when the 9 major planets collided. Centuries ago, they call it a spirit realm. This specific area is the Forest of Dire Wolves, a low difficulty level 1 zone. Hearing spirit realm triggers a mental dictionary, an alternate space with 0 humans and wall-to-wall monsters. Principal Joe promises it is perfectly stable, its safety personally certified by Rain, the founder of the Warrior Alliance, and the 3rd strongest human alive. However, he quickly adds that there is still a very real risk of death, warning against playing the solo hero. Off to the side, I spot Wu Jian violently coughing, still looking completely annoyed by the mere existence of everyone around him. Principal Joe uses an iris scan to unlock the gates. He reveals that the true location of the spirit realm is top secret, and the magical circle in front of us is a backup exit, created just in case the dimensional rift unexpectedly collapses. He orders everyone to step into the circle, explaining that each team will be randomly teleported to one of 1,000 drop points. To make things worse, out of the 300 badge locations marked on our map, only 100 actually contain badges. The rest are completely empty decoys. A blinding light flashes, and suddenly we are standing deep inside the forest. Checking the map, we look out. A marker is sitting right next to our drop point. Despite my strong suspicion that early markers are usually decoys, we decide to check it out. Approaching the spot, a simple button press actually yields a real batch. Lubo cheers about our good luck and suggests we find the next one. Before I can answer, my instincts scream. I wildly grab Lubo and violently yank him toward me, barely dodging two arrows that silently slice through the air, right where his head just was. Before we can even process our luck, another trio drops in out of nowhere, openly annoyed that we beat them to the drop. They announce themselves as the Coon City team, coming from a much bigger, more developed city. They naturally assume they outrank us. Their leader smugly demands we hand over the badge if we want to avoid early elimination. Meanwhile, out in the main hall viewing area, the spectators are already watching the drama unfold. Since we spawned so close to each other, a clash in the first 10 minutes was inevitable. The Coon City principal happily pats my principal on the back, obnoxiously apologizing in advance, and offering to buy our team's plane tickets back home. Tonight my principal sweats nervously, silently cursing our terrible luck for running into a powerhouse school in the very first round back in the forest. Their leader suggests we hand over the loot nicely. Smiling, I point out that a bigger zip code doesn't automatically mean better fighters. He proudly introduces himself as Li Yuan, Coon City's future ultimate warrior, and promises to make us the first elimination. I tell my teammates to step back. I'm handling this entire squad solo. The trio attacks simultaneously. Li Yuan unleashes his Comet Spear technique, screaming about how I don't know my place in the world. I meet their combined heavy assault head-on, with my sword perfectly blocking the strike, without giving up a single inch of ground. Li Yuan's eyes practically pop out of his skull, since the protective suits equalize everyone's life strength to level 5. My raw power makes 0 sense to him. I quickly evaluate his martial skill. Peak First Order Advanced. He is decent, but his two lackeys are complete dead weight. Activating level 9 Spiritual Force and Shrouding, I unleash the first form of my sword technique. Draw the ground as a prison. The massive strike instantly wipes out both of his lackeys, leaving only Li Yuan trembling, desperately wondering why my sword suddenly feels heavier than his spear. Deciding to finish the job, I wind up for my second form. Just before my blade connects, the enemy team's instructor materializes out of thin air, pinching my sword to a dead halt with just 2 fingers. Li Yuan immediately protests, claiming he can still fight. The instructor coldly shuts him down, bluntly declaring him the loser. He explains that my attack power, hit with the force of a level 7 life strength, a direct hit, would have sliced right through the protective suit and killed him. The instructor gives me a deeply appraising look, admitting my starting point is even higher than his. Star pupils glancing toward the trees. He offers a respectful nod to Teacher Ling, hiding in the shadows, noting he looks forward to seeing our performance in the finals before storming off. Li Yuan demands my name, flashing a grin. I tell him that in 2 days, my name will be first place. Out in the viewing area, the tables completely turn. My principal gleefully asks his Coon City rival what time his flight is so he can book it immediately. Nearby VIPs are stunned by the footage, noting I am the 4th student this year to display first order perfection. However, their all quickly shifts to sheer confusion when they check the live map. My team has only collected 1 badge, yet we are making a beeline straight for the moon symbol exit. Showing up there without 2 badges means instant disqualification. Inside the forest, my teammates are equally panicked. They demand to know why I am suddenly plotting to assassinate Musashi, the top powerhouse from Lu City. I break it down for them. I couldn't care less about prestige. I desperately need that 1 million yuan prize money. To survive tournament has 3 major threats: Musashi and 2 powerhouses from High City. Lubo argues that taking out Musashi right now just does High City a massive favor. I shake my head, explaining the brutal politics of tournament brackets. Since High City is hosting, they will absolutely rig tomorrow's one-on-one matchup, so I exhaust myself fighting Musashi early on. The battered survivor of that bloodbath would then have to fight both High City favorites back-to-back in the finals. Beating 3 first-order perfection opponents in 2 days straight is mathematically impossible. The only logical solution is to completely eliminate Musashi from the board. Today, Lu both eyes, loudly calling my assassination plot some serious, under-the-table manipulation. I admit it is a huge gamble for them, since failing means we are out in the first round. They brush it off, knowing their own limits and just happy to participate. The bandana guy asks the million-dollar question: how do we actually find Wuchang? I explain basic psychology. An arrogant powerhouse will naturally head toward the thickest cluster of bad markers. All we have to do is camp the main path, leading to the exit nearest that cluster. We hike up a nearby hill, and immediately spot another team, desperately fighting a massive beast. My brain stalls. That is a beast wolf. The exact same monster I fight every night. In the crystal space, it makes 0 sense. Because these things are not listed anywhere in humanity's official monster handbook, it instantly clicks the crystal space. Monsters must originate directly from the spirit realm. A girl from the struggling team loudly curses Wu Jihong right before a Wolf lunges at her, slicing the beast perfectly in half. Feels incredibly satisfying. I turn to her, casually wipe a speck of monster blood off my cheek, flash a polite smile, and ask if she just mentioned Wu Jiang. The bandana guy helps up her teammate, who quickly spills the tea. He claims they stumbled onto Wu Jiang, fighting 10 wolves, tried to run and got chased all the way here. He eagerly points us toward the supposed battleground. The math simply is not matching. There are absolutely no badge markers in that direction, making it a highly suspicious location. Still, if Wu Jian really is fighting 10 monsters, his stamina is completely shot. It is a risk worth taking. I warn my team to stay entirely on edge and follow my commands, noting a seriously ominous feeling. Unbeknownst to us, a creepy, bone-shaped device is secretly spying on us. From the trees we sprint through the forest for ages, without seeing a single footprint. We were completely played. Suddenly 20 massive werewolf-like beasts surround us. The other team completely lied. They saw our badges and purposely pointed us straight into a wolf den, hoping the monsters would butcher us so they could casually loot our corpses later. Driving the tiger to devour the wolf is a classic, cowardly betrayal evaluating the pack. There are 10 fewer wolves than my usual crystal space nightmares, but their life indexes are significantly higher. I quickly bark orders: absolutely do not bleed. These psychotic furballs go entirely berserk. At the smell of blood I warn them to watch out for the nasty spikes on their backs, and dive straight into the fray. Meanwhile, in the VIP viewing hall, the spectators are already writing our epitaphs, watching the screens. They assume we blindly followed the GPS to our doom, loudly claiming only the high city's golden girl could survive. A 20-wolf den, my principal is sweating bullets, while his Kun City rival smugly jokes about sharing a cab to the airport. Principal Duel, one of the organizers, casually estimates our survival chance at under 10%. He proudly explains, the tournament is designed to brutally teach kids reality. The badges are intentionally placed behind wolf dens to punish blind navigation. They all agree. We just hit a spectacularly unlucky spawn, not missing a beat. The high city principal loudly brags that his own team could easily solo a massive den without breaking a sweat back in the forest. The organizer's nightmare. SCNARI was basically my Tuesday night. These things are far too weak to withstand a single blow. I intentionally pull aggro on the vast majority of the pack. As long as nobody bleeds and triggers the berserk mode, my teammates can easily mop up the stragglers. The bandana guy and Loop both frantically coordinate their attacks, desperately trying to finish their targets quickly so they can come rescue me. I definitely do not need saving. I seamlessly chain together my sword stances, draw the ground as a prison, flowing lightning, dark golden drums, and finally breeze beneath the forest. I slice through the entire den of wolves, like a hot knife through incredibly ugly butter. I seamlessly transition into the Azure Dragon, precision thrust. After butchering these exact monsters countless times, in the crystal space their habits and attack patterns are practically burned into my brain. Out of the corner of my eye, I spot Melee getting overwhelmed. The guy who usually ranks first in our class is clearly having a massive, existential crisis about becoming a burden to the team. I quickly run the numbers. These beast wolves have a life intensity of at least level 5, and the alpha is pushing 6.5. Even though my body can handle power equivalent to level 7, going on the offensive is entirely impossible right now. Lubo is barely managing a draw against 3 of them, making backup a total pipe dream. My power and speed are just a fraction off. I desperately need a 1% improvement. If my sword could move just a hair faster, we might actually break out. We have exactly 2 minutes to reduce this pack to single digits, or we are dead meat. Pushing myself past my limit, I strike faster and faster. Just as I find a perfect rhythm, Amalei shouts my name. He violently apologizes, warning that the wolves are officially entering their berserk state, and begs us to run a massive wolf lunges. Seconds away from knocking him entirely out of the tournament, I intervene, instantly decapitating the beast with a swift strike. I bark orders demanding they run while I hold the line. Since Teacher Ling is hiding in the shadows, actual death isn't on the table. Strategically, this is the only way to ensure our team makes the second round. Lubo grabs a melee, agreeing that sticking around only holds me back, and they immediately sprint for the exit. Left entirely alone, I analyze the field. The berserk state temporarily buffs their speed and strength, but completely deletes their logic. They blindly attack the closest living thing, having survived 30 of these psychotic furballs at once, in the crystal space. Treating this as a live fire refresher course feels perfectly fine. Meanwhile, out in the viewing hall, the VIPs are having a field day, analyzing my near-death experience. The general consensus is that a medium-sized bruiser den would slaughter even a top-tier martial artist, A director admits my survival is impressive, but notes it is actually incredibly suspicious. He pulled my file and realized I had never even stepped foot outside Lang City. Before this week, another official points out that my sword technique isn't at first order 99% yet, but my predictive combat sense is terrifying. He remarks that I fight like a grizzled veteran who crawled out of a pile of corpses on the front lines since ordinary citizens have zero clearance regarding the spirit realm. They are completely baffled how a normal kid is effortlessly predicting classified alien attack patterns back in the forest. I am officially cornered. I launch into the Frost Brad's technique. The Alpha Wolf is rocking a terrifying level 7 life intensity, while the rest are sitting comfortably between 6 and 6.5 even though there are only a dozen left. Their combined strength easily rivals the giant I fought last night. Switching to the Thunderbird drum stance, I desperately search for an opening. Spotting a lurker trying to blindside me, I pivot and slice it down, eliminating the annoying backup first. Surrounded on all sides, the constant dodging and weaving is rapidly draining my stamina bar. If I do not finish this quickly, I am going to pass out before they even land a hit. Dodging and slashing, my stamina bar is flashing red. I spot a weakness in their guard, but my body just cannot keep up. I desperately need my sword to be faster, stronger and heavier. Flashes of my family's faces and Teacher Ling's expectations crash into my mind. This is not just a tournament. This is the turning point of my entire life. Gritting my teeth, I refuse to fall here. Pushing past my physical limits, I basically turn into a cornered monster. Suddenly, the entire feel of my sword strike completely shifts, just as a massive wolf tries to catch my blade. Meanwhile, Teacher Ling is watching from the shadows, practically writing my eulogy. He views this brutal betrayal as a harsh, but necessary lesson about trusting strangers before stepping into society. Assuming the outcome is sealed, he prepares to jump in and end the trial. Then his jaw practically hits the floor. Back in my reality, the blade's trajectory perfectly aligns with the wind, moving with zero resistance. The system chimes in with beautiful news. My flowing light sword art just leveled up from 98 to 99%. Across town in the VIP auditorium, the organizers are losing their minds. My principal's friend points out the absolute insanity of a mid-battle breakthrough. Skeptics argue that physical exhaustion should have killed me anyway, regardless of the martial arts upgrade. However, one sharp-eyed principal identifies the glow of mental power attachment, loudly guessing my spiritual power is approaching level 10. They debate my terrifying potential to become a soaring martial artist, noting that hitting level 10 triggers a qualitative martial soul change. The tension is broken when someone checks the live map and notices the Me City team, the exact liars who set us up, creeping straight back toward my location. Back in the forest, the Me City squad is casually strolling toward the massacre. The girl nervously asks their self-proclaimed tactician, Zhang Shuai, if looting our badges is truly a safe bet. He arrogantly explains his flawless logic. The wolves would easily overwhelm us, forcing our teacher to intervene. That intervention means an automatic disqualification, forcing us to leave our untraceable badges on the ground for them to scoop up. Walking into the clearing, Zhang Shuai grins maniacally, spotting a badge resting right on top of a dead wolf. His teammates eagerly praise his godlike predictions, assuming our teacher wiped out the pack. However, one guy starts sweating profusely. He stares at the massive slash wounds on the carcasses, struck by a horrifying realization. Team leaders are strictly forbidden from carrying weapons, meaning our teacher did not do this. He slowly realizes a student slaughtered the entire den alone, and the badge is just bait. Right on cue, my team casually steps out from the bushes, offering a polite smile. I ask how they figured out our little trap so quickly. Zhang Shuai swallows hard, nervously explaining the no weapons rule for the shadowing instructors. A sudden realization hits me. The only reason their tactician figured out our trap was because shadowing teachers aren't allowed to carry weapons. I completely overlooked that detail, because Teacher Ling only ever uses generic practice gear in class, leaving me clueless about his actual weapon. Note to self: be way more observant. Turning back to the shivering Me City team, I casually mention I only care about fighting Wuzhong. Assuming I'm obsessed, they happily spilled the tea. Wuzhong headed toward the star mark, but hit a massive wolf den midway. That confirms my suspicions. The official straight-line navigation is a complete death trap. To properly thank them for the directions, I swiftly knock them all out. As they hit the dirt, their hidden teacher pops out from the trees, loudly lecturing me about my lack of martial ethics. Emily immediately yells back, pointing out their blatant hypocrisy, since they literally just tried to feed us to wolves. I flash a polite smile and call it basic deception. The furious teacher storms off. Thanks to our little mugging, we now have both required badges. Lupo is absolutely thrilled. Amelie nervously asks if I am still marching off to challenge Wuzhong, pulling up my severely depleted stamina and mental power stats. I laugh. Absolutely not, I only asked for his location. so we could actively avoid him. Fighting a perfect level expert right now would be a guaranteed nightmare. Looking at the map, I trace a zigzag detour toward the Moonmark exit. My teammates are deeply confused by the scenic route. I explained the organizer's sick sense of humor. The batch locations are perfectly safe, but the direct paths connecting them are literal minefields. Zigzagging between the safe zones takes longer, but completely avoids the dens. It is a meticulously designed meat grinder. We are literally steps from the finish line. When the bushes rustle, my heart drops. It is the High City team. The blonde guy carrying a massive sword box instantly zeroes in on me, accurately sensing my first order perfect sword intent. We brace for a brutal fight. Surprisingly, he halts. He notices my blood-soaked clothes and realizes we just survived a massive dun. Attacking now would be an unfair victory. The purple-haired girl steps up. She confidently declares she will just eliminate me and Wu Jiyoung in the later rounds to secure their 10th consecutive championship. Lope practically swoons over her supposedly heroic manners. I internally laugh until my ribs hurt, calling the sneaky, virtual rat who tried to stab me in the back. A great hero is peak comedy. Meanwhile, as the High City team walks away, the blonde guy asks the purple-haired girl why she passed up an easy kill, knowing her actual combat style is ruthlessly opportunistic. She bluntly reminds him they're on a live broadcast. Saving face later that night. I collapse onto my hotel bed, completely dead to the world. My daily void immortal visualization is done. Exactly 50 teams survive the bad snatch. Advancing tomorrow means I need to win a bout for consecutive matches. My mental power is currently sitting at level 9. If I can finally clear the 7th wave of monsters in the crystal space tonight, I will hit level 10, triggering a massive qualitative change in my soul. I close my eyes knowing that hitting level 10 absolutely guarantees me first place. Back inside my mental realm, the goal is crystal clear. Hitting level 10 spiritual power means I will be the undisputed champion. Right on cue, the 7th wave of monsters spawns. This time it is a terrifying new silhouette. A two-faced three-bladed bear, boasting a massive level 7 life intensity. It instantly lunges, blocking its strikes, and shockwaves completely down my arms. The sheer power is absolutely ridiculous. I try changing my attack angle, but the beast's second phase instantly tracks my movement. Realizing why it's called two-faced makes me curse out loud. There are literally no blind spots. To survive tomorrow's tournament bracket, I absolutely must kill 8 of these things tonight. And level up, I systematically test its defenses. Slicing at the neck proves useless. Targeting the head does absolutely nothing. Striking the heart is equally pointless, since it just counters aggressively. Instead of defending finally, it attacks again, and as I block, I notice its tail actively twitching out of the way. The tail is the weak point. I feign a desperate strike at its head, intentionally leaving myself wide open. It takes the bait, and I cleanly sever its tail with a swift slash. The massive bear instantly drops. Grinning, I promise the rest of the pack I'm going to chop off every single tail tonight. Meanwhile, across town, the High City team is holding a tense strategy meeting. Their teacher asks the purple-haired sea princess if she remembers a certain cultivation student from Lang City. She confirmed she remembers me. The teacher drops a massive reality check, warning that I am officially the biggest threat to their championship. He reveals the classified intel that I cleared an entire medium-sized wolf den, completely solo. The sea princess is visibly shaken, asking if I have already reached the absolute limit of the first stage. The teacher admits I am probably not there yet, but I am definitely undergoing a qualitative change in my martial arts. The blonde sword guy realizes that puts me on the exact same martial level as their golden girl. The teacher orders them to stay hyper-vigilant. When asked for her odds against me, the sea princess casually pulls off her face mask. Staring coldly, she declares their 10th consecutive championship win will be absolutely flawless. The next morning, the tournament officials break down the brutal second round mechanics. It is a pure one-on-one elimination bracket, with everyone's life force locked at level 5. Teammates are strictly forbidden from fighting each other. Today features 4 grueling back-to-back elimination rounds, designed to whittle 150 students down to the final 10, with occasional automatic buys to balance the odd numbers. The seeding system is entirely dynamic. The faster you win your match, the earlier you fight in the next round, giving the participants with longer, exhausting matches more time to rest. Checking my assigned seed number, I see a big 16. I quickly deduce that my squad was the 4th team to officially qualify yesterday. The giant screens light up as the system randomly draws the first matchup. The crowd absolutely loses its mind, screaming about a miracle and a clash of absolute peaks. Looking at the board, my jaw drops. The very first fight of the day is Wu Jiyoung, the arrogant powerhouse, going head-to-head against the Sea Princess. The crowd buzzes about this first match, deciding the entire tournament. Someone thankfully brings up my solo Wolf Den massacre as a wild card. Watching the arena, I find it fascinating that both of these absolute monsters are artificially nerfed down to a level 5. Life intensity down in the ring. Wu Jiang arrogantly declares. He has been dying to fight the Sea Princess. She casually offers him her high school daughters for a future beatdown. He claims he wants to shatter the myth of her invincible 10-year winning streak, refusing to believe she is an immovable mountain. She coldly suggests he start believing the hype. They immediately lunge at each other. The giant stadium screens suddenly display their live martial skill indexes, both starting right at 90%. It turns out, the tournament suits are packed with force, sensing chips that instantly calculate skill levels, based on live power application. Wu Zhong executes a frozen slash, bumping his index to 92%. The Sea Princess calculates his cautious approach, realizing he is specifically targeting her supporting hand. When his index suddenly spikes to a terrifying 99%, she recognizes the overwhelming sword intent, and desperately dodges. Her own index jumps to 95%, as she forcibly redirects his slashing trajectory, actually injuring his shoulder in the process. He laughs maniacally, genuinely praising her strength. Watching them fight, my brain hits a brick wall. I cannot identify their basic martial skills at all. The Sea Princess announces this is just the beginning, and goes straight on the offensive. Teacher Ling leans over and drops a massive lore bomb. He admits he withheld information about the final 1% because I had not reached it yet. Apparently the jump from 99% is not 100, it is 99.1. This agonizing final stretch is called comprehension. By analogy, Ling explains. It involves intentionally switching weapon types, with completely different attributes, to perform your original basic skills. My brain finally clicks. Wu Young is using a lightweight, versatile sword to flawlessly mimic the heavy, brutal forms of the clock hammer technique. Ling nods, adding that mastering the weapon's intent means opponents can never predict your actual style. Looking back at the Sea Princess, I suddenly realize her dagger movements are entirely based on the massive Holy King staff technique. Down below, Wu Zhong unleashes his hammer technique, again, creating confusing afterimages from multiple angles. The Sea Princess entirely focuses, easily spotting the real body, and pointing her dagger straight at his throat. Noting that swords cannot actually create clones, instead of panicking, Wu Zhong casually catches her dagger midair. With just 2 fingers, he praises her move, before instantly launching his second form. She dodges, spotting what looks like a glaring opening. In his defense, Wu Zhong flashes a vicious grin, celebrating that she fell for the bait. The screen flashes his true power, a terrifying 99.9% near limit mastery. He brings his blade crashing down. The smoke finally clears in the arena, and the crowd is practically vibrating to see who survived the clash. A quick replay shows Wu Zhong successfully blocking a heavy strike, winding up for a massive counterattack, and screaming about shattering his opponent's invincible myth. Watching from the sidelines, his aura is absolutely terrifying. Dodging him yesterday was definitely the smartest career move of my life. However, the Sea Princess immediately unleashes her true technique. A massive wave of water-like energy explodes outward, and the stadium screens flash an impossible number. Tier 1 limit 100%. Hitting the absolute limit is one of the 3 major thresholds for becoming a soaring martial artist. The last person to do that before turning 18 is currently running a top 8 elite school. Wu Zhong instantly drops his sword and surrenders. I mentally scream in frustration. I was really hoping they would beat each other half to death, so I could casually pick up the scraps. Up in the VIP box, the organizers are losing their minds. The Sea Princess's father smugly admits she broke through last week, intentionally hiding it, so she wouldn't completely crush the other students. Fighting spirit nearby. Elite recruiters are weeping over lost prospects. They figure the Sea Princess is guaranteed to attend Black Dragon University, thanks to her dad's high ranking, extreme martial hall connections, while Wu Jiang already accepted early admission to Dianfang. The recruiters from Chilean Martial Arts University loudly complain about being too slow, desperately hoping to find another hidden genius. The next few matches are absolute snooze fests. The crowd is literally falling asleep, watching rookies poke at each other. After witnessing 100% limit break, thankfully the announcer wakes everyone up by calling the next match me, the guy who soloed Wolf Dan against Jude Darren. Stepping into the ring, I quickly analyzed my opponent. He drew C-No, too, meaning he was the absolute strongest fighter. In the very first group to clear the forest yesterday, he immediately starts talking trash, acting overly confident, and asking how much stamina I could possibly have left. After fighting 20 wolves, I let my sword do the talking and launch an attack. He blocks, and the screens reveal we are both sitting at a tier 1. 90% mastery. The crowd gasps at yet another hidden perfect level expert. Jude Darren smugly assumes I'm rushing. Because I lack endurance, he charges his fist, unleashes the 4th stance of the invisible edge technique, and forcefully pushes me back. The screen updates his index to 96%. Analyzing his stance is easy. It is a heavy strength-based blade technique, supported by the left hand, which makes it incredibly rigid. He clearly assumes I am still exhausted from yesterday, and wants to drag this into a war of attrition. If I didn't have the crystal space, secretly healing me every night, his strategy would be flawless. Deciding to end this immediately, I meet his blind thrust head-on. The screens flash my true index 99.3%. I effortlessly disarm him, and land a clean slash across his palm. He stares, in absolute horror at my overwhelming strength. I drop a quick one-liner about him wanting the top 10, while running into me quickly. Executing the draw the ground as a prison stance, to secure the instant victory, ending it fast, was the only way to avoid his heavy blade. Back in the VIP stance, the Chilean University recruiters are deeply analyzing my 99.3% index. They correctly deduce it is fueled by my level 9 mental power, but sigh because it only puts me at their bare minimum. Passing line entering their elite class strictly requires level 10 mental power, a tier 1 limit in martial arts, or a level 11 life intensity before turning 18. I am just a fraction short across the board. However, the green-haired recruiter smiles, noting that compared to the rest of the field, I am still an incredibly high-tier seedling. He suggests they corner me tonight to sign a letter of intent. Thanks for watching. If you liked the recap, subscribe and hit that like button. Catch you in the next one right here at